can't ever tell if this is on because I have a really loud voice, and so is it me or is it the microphone? But y'all can all hear me, right? Okay, welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. I know it's a Friday night. We were hoping to time it with the event down there for our new 7th graders or our upcoming 7th graders. So thank you for coming. I know it's not easy this time of year, but we really wanted to kind of start the year off strong with our parents and kind of just... We've kind of been doing this between, and we'll give you a little bit of background. We've been doing this and working in education for a long time. And so kind of these are things that we've seen over the course of the last couple of years because, okay, we'll get to that. But my name is Melissa Uzier. I am the head of the junior high. And what I tell the kids is that's basically like the principal, okay, for the junior high school. And I have actually been a part of Holy Trinity, oh my goodness, since preschool. I went to preschool at Holy Trinity when it was at the lower school. I left for a little while, came back, and then graduated from Holy Trinity when it just went through 9th grade. So I've been through junior high school at Holy Trinity. I've actually got the experience of junior high at HT. They didn't have a high school at that time, so I went to the illustrious educational institution that's known as O'Galley High School, then went away for college and ended up coming back here. And this is going to be my 20th year as an employee of Holy Trinity. I taught history and government for 15 years, and then did a little bit of college counseling, and now I'm in this position. I also have a graduating senior this year. So if you find me crying in a corner, just understand that that's probably what it's about. But she's graduating. She's been at Holy Trinity since 1st grade, and then my son, Cooper, is going into 9th grade. So we are what there is to know about Holy Trinity. And then we've got Blake Wilson.
Hey everybody, my name is Blake Wilson, and I'm the junior high academic advisor and counselor. And before I was here, I was in South Florida, I was in Puerto Rico, I was out in Portland, Oregon, and I was born up in the Northeast. And originally I was a math teacher, algebra and geometry. And after a few years of that, I started connecting with the kids in a different way, went back to school, got some counseling experience, and became a counselor as well. And so that's my dual role here as well. It's my 3rd year here, so I'm a few years behind Melissa here, but after going through the COVID 2 years, which were my first 2 years, I feel like I'm really close behind her. It's a good 10 years that felt like. And
it's
so it really
true.
was. But we come with different perspectives. I didn't go through here. I didn't have kids that are presently here. So we can give you 2 different slants on what we're going to share tonight. And so we thought that would be valuable for everybody. I'm curious, how many parents in here have a child that is either an only child or the oldest, so you're going through junior high for the first time? I'm curious. Okay, that's awesome.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah, welcome everyone.
All right, perfect. Well, we don't want to take a ton of your time because we want to make sure that you're back up picking up your children over at the Tiger Athletic Complex by 7. But we gave this handout. So did everybody get the handout? Okay, perfect. This is kind of like a cheat sheet for helping you survive junior high school. Very first page. Who do I call for what? Who do I email for what? And this is not the ultimate cheat sheet, but it gives you a really, really, really good idea of a lot of different things. So you're going to see Mr. Wilson's contact on here. You're going to see our finance department's contact on here, our chaplain, our IT department. And then mine's at the bottom. I'm kind of the catch-all. Okay? So if you have a question, even if it's an insignificant question, feel free to email me. Okay, feel free to give me a call if you've got a really big question. By all means, feel free to email me. Mr. Wilson and I work really, really, really well together, and we work very closely together. So really, to be honest, you can call either one of us with any kind of question, and we can, it's pretty specific on here, but if you're in doubt, call either one of us, and we will either answer your question or be able to direct you where you need to go. But we thought that this would be good for people new to the upper school, which is really all of you for the most part. It's a good kind of snapshot resource that you can either take a picture of and make it as a favorite in your phone, okay, put it on the fridge, going old school, but thought it was just a good place for y'all to kind of see that first intro of what do I do and who do I call at the upper school. But again, if there's another question beyond that, we want to spend most of our time going through this handout, which we've called the Junior High Survival Guide Parent Edition. Okay, all of the things that are on this sheet, okay, which I hope you read at some point. We're not going to read it to you. All right, we're going to kind of walk through each little piece of it. But what we're hoping is to provide you with a little bit of our perspective. Okay, both of us have been working with students for a pretty long time, and both of us started really young in education, our careers. So at least I'm going with me.
We're still young.
But we just have a perspective that we're hoping to share. Okay, so these are not absolutes, but these are suggestions based on our perspective and our experiences that might help you navigate through junior high. Here's the thing. How many of y'all remember junior high? Probably some, yep, okay. Right? Junior high can be challenging. Okay, because here's the thing. You're coming into junior high, your kids are like 12 and 13. They're elementary school kids, right? When they leave junior high, they're like on their way to adulthood. And that's a challenge, and that's hard to wrap your brain around, right? Elementary school and high school, that's a big developmental bridge to gap. And it's not easy, all right? It's not easy for them, and sometimes it's not easy for you. It sometimes feels like you're living junior high school all over again with them, okay? And so we kind of want to walk through some of those things that might help make this a little bit easier for y'all to get through and to help your students get through so that when they leave junior high, they're going to come back, 10 years from now and be like, actually, junior high was kind of fun. I remember junior high being a really good experience. My experience in junior high was awesome. And that's what we're hoping your kids are going to walk out of here with by the time they get to high school. And the other thing we want to make sure is that they're prepared for high school, okay? The job of the high school is to prepare them for college. Okay, that's when we start talking about college and all that other stuff. In junior high, we're getting them ready for high school so that when they get to their high school classes and the expectations kind of change to high school, no problem. Okay, so that's kind of the basis of all of this, but we categorize it in a couple of different ways. The first one is just to foster academic ownership. Okay, a lot of the times developmentally for these students, they haven't been able to really feel comfortable or even know how to take ownership of their educational experience, right? They've had a homeroom, they've had a lot of people kind of helping them along the way, including you, right? But junior high is that time for us parents to take a little bit of a step back, maybe another one. Okay, because we're sending them out into the world of high school. We want to make sure they're ready. So this whole kind of conversation is really directed at that idea of them taking ownership, because when they care more than you care, you've done your job. Okay, and we've done our job.
But that doesn't mean letting go completely,
100%.
okay? Please don't let go completely. In terms of like checking in on grades, for example, that should be something that they do regularly. Not obsessively, but regularly. And I would say on the side, let them know, I'll be checking in on your grades regularly, maybe at the end of a week, somewhere around a Thursday, so in case something is missed, they still have that Friday to get it in. But that's the step back, but not the let go, all right? I've seen some let go before, and it hasn't gone so well, and so still hold on to that rope or whatever you want to call it, but gently, all right? That's worked with everyone that I've seen.
And our learning management system is called On Campus. Okay, On Campus is actually pretty easy to use, okay, but it's easy for them to take ownership of, okay, so that they can monitor their grades. And you can do it in the background, not while they're around, right? But you can kind of say, hey, by the way, you keep it up. But that learning management system is a great opportunity for them to really understand what are my assignments, because that's what their teachers are going to expect of them, okay? So let them take ownership of that. And connected in is allow them to self-advocate. This is a difficult skill to learn. And I know personally as a parent, sometimes it's hard to let go because I'm just used to ordering their food at a restaurant, right? Oh, it's just easier for me to do it. Okay, or I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that. But then they don't necessarily learn how to self-advocate on their own. This is an awesome opportunity. You're in junior high, right? So if you have a question about your grade, why don't you go talk to your teacher? Okay, why don't you go talk to your teacher? And if they're nervous, act it out with them. Say, okay, well, what's your concern? Well, I turned in a homework and it hasn't gotten a grade and I want to make sure that they got it because I'm a little worried that they didn't get it and that I'm going to fail. Okay, let's talk about this. When you go see Mrs. Malevich during her office hours, Okay, or when you talk to Mrs. Malevich at the end of class, what are you going to say? But let them do that, and that's sometimes difficult to do, right? Because we're fixers, right? We're parents, we're fixers. But they won't learn without being able to do it on their own. Okay, so help them learn how to self-advocate with their teachers. And if they don't feel like they're getting exactly what the answer they're still frustrated, talk to Mr.
Come
Wilson.
to me. And for some of your children, this is going to be easy. They're going to go, oh, I'll talk to Mrs. whomever or Mr. whoever, one-on-one, no problem. And then I would say the majority of your children will be like, wait, you want me to talk to my teacher alone after class, one-on-one? I don't think so. That's what I've found. And so I can also role play with them. I'm not a big role play person, but I literally walk kids down, introduce to the teacher, get the conversation going, and usually that just does the trick. And I slowly step out if I need to be. Sometimes I sit and just listen. It's going to be different for everybody, though, all right? But let me know if they have any questions and they're like, I don't want to do that, all right? I will help them do that.
But one of the biggest victories is when they come in, they get in the car, and they're like, I talked to Mrs. Malevich about. And you're like, yes, nailed it. Okay, but let them self-advocate. If they're not super comfortable with that particular teacher, have them come find Mr. Wilson, and I'm also willing and able to help. But letting them kind of dictate those conversations is really, really important during this time period. Also, academic resources. One of the best things about being at Holy Trinity in junior high school is we are trying to give them more freedom and more responsibility. Like we say that to the kids all the time, right? You're going to notice that when you were at elementary school, the rules were pretty tight because the rules had to apply to sixth graders all the way down to kindergartners. So by the time you got to sixth grade, it felt like it didn't fit. When you get here, yes, you can eat lunch wherever you'd like on campus. Yes, before school, you can sit in these picnic tables or even over there at the tennis tables. Like they get a lot more freedom, and sometimes they just don't know what to do with that. All right, but we're also going to ask them to kind of carry some more responsibility. Okay, but we're also not just dropping them in the deep end of the pool for a lack of better cliche, right? We're asking a lot of them, but we also have an enormous amount of resources for them at Holy Trinity, Mr. Wilson being one of them. Okay, we also have 2 academic coaches. One's a math coach, specifically math related. The other one is going to be more organizational coach. And then they both offer what we call the Success Center. If they need a little bit of extra organization help, a little bit of extra math help, they can go after school to our Success Center and get that. They also have their teachers that are willing to bend over backwards to support them. So the point is teaching them how to self-advocate, and then let's talk about the resources you have available to you. There's a ton of them. And sharing and talking that through and having them understand and then actually utilize those resources. Going up to Mrs. Roach, writing their name on the door, I need some help. Okay, or Mrs. Grant. They have little bulletin boards on their doors that you just write your name, and then that coach is going to come find you.
And this isn't just for kids that are struggling with something. It could be for anything if they just want an extra whatever that may be. And please reinforce all these people, ourselves right here, but everybody else as well. Let them know, hey, did you talk to Mrs. Roach, Mr. Wilson, Miss Uzier? Keep pushing them to that because we're here to help them, all right? We are here to help them.
Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Excellent point. Yep, excellent point. Email, just catching Mrs. Roach or Mrs. Grant in the hallway, either way. Perfect. Well, what's kind of funny, you're correct, but so many kids utilize those 2 resources, and just like Mr. Wilson said, it's not just because they are floundering. It might be that, hey, I tried this new organizational technique and it didn't really work. Can you provide any other suggestions? So there's a lot of kids that aren't going necessarily for help, in the sense of, again, I'm going to fail this class if you don't help me right now. But it's also just for a little bit of extra because they want to see success and they know what it's going to take. Maybe a little bit, hey, Mrs. Grant, can you help me? I understand derivatives. Do they do that? Again, and I'm not a math person, but derivatives, right? I'm a history person, but still, clearly. But I want to practice this before our test tomorrow. You know what I mean? So it's actually a resource that's used by a significant number of our students, which is another thing to be able to share with them. This isn't like, it's, success centers indicate, it's indicating that I want to be successful. What can I do to make that happen? Okay, transitioning to the next kind of topic and category, executive functioning. So a lot of times you're going to hear phrases connected to education right now about 21st century learning skills. Okay, and the whole idea is, how do I function in the real world? What does this look like? Okay, and it means a lot of different things at different levels, but one of the biggest things is executive functioning skills in the junior high and developing those skills now. So what we mean by that is help your student develop a sense or a system of organization. And Mrs. Roach is also who we have on campus to help them to accomplish this. But what's kind of amazing is that I know my system's the best, by the way. It really is. Mine's the best. But is it going to work for anybody else? Maybe, maybe not. And by the way, I'm a piles person. My system of organization is piles. It works amazing for me.
I'm a sticky person, sticky notes, like old school.
But mine's great.
So is mine.
Yep. But he walks into my office and I think he just cringes. Right? I'm all like, cool, sticky notes, nice. Right? But it doesn't work necessarily. So us trying to put that onto our kids, by the way, here's the best way. It's not necessarily going to be the best way for them. Right? And so what we suggest is that at the very beginning, they all have a planner, or will have one by orientation. Okay? Some of them love that planner. Some of them like to get their own that's pretty and pink and beautiful. Okay? But help them develop a system of organization rather than directing them in a system of organization. And in our experience, that's going to be the best way for them to actually stick with it. Okay, but that organizational system that they'll learn in actually some of their classes by default, and they might cringe a little bit at it, but all of those things are getting them ready to be able to develop time management skills.
Remember this phrase, too. Mr. Bailey, who's the head cross-country coach who I work with, I'm one of the cross-country coaches as well, said this recently to the kids. He said, structure fosters success. And that's what we're talking about, structure within their life. It works. It really works. So remember that. Structure fosters success. And it's going to change. That organization is going to change depending on maybe the semester, the sport they're playing. Maybe they're in the car studying. Maybe they're on the kitchen table. It's going to be different, and it may evolve. So go with it. But remember that structure fosters success.
And it really marries well to time management. The more organized they are, the better able they are to manage their time because they've learned how to create systems, right? So they can use that planner, or they can use, some people use their iPhone. But time management, what we have found with our junior high kids is they're really excited. They want to be engaged. They want to be involved, many of them. So on Monday at orientation, they're going to sign up for a bunch of clubs. You'll be like, what? Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, I didn't know you played that. Okay, that sounds great. Because they want to be involved, right? And then they're going to sign, they want to run cross country, but they also kind of like swimming, which we don't advocate doing 2 sports at once, by the way. But they want to be part of a lot of different things. They're going to have to learn how to manage it. And what's the beautiful part about junior high is that this is a great opportunity to let them go on their own, but also, you're not going to like this, to fail. And I'm not talking about math. Okay, I'm not talking about the entire course. Okay, but at this point, and this isn't necessarily a wonderfully popular thing to say, but in junior high, many of their classes don't quote unquote count. And what I mean by that is that it's not going to go on their college transcript. No college will ever see what happened in pre-algebra or 8th grade history, U.S. history advanced. They're not going to see that. Okay, and so this is a great time for them to develop a system of organization, time management, try new things, and they learn from the failure. Many of your kids won't. Okay, many of your kids are going to get their system down. They're going to knock it out of the park. Okay, but some of them might struggle a little bit, and that's where you step in and you help out and you provide suggestions and you provide support. And believe it, we're not advocating for your kids to fail, but junior high is really the time to let them go a little bit, to try new things with time management and with organization. okay? Because it doesn't, quote unquote, count as much as it will when they get to high school.
So they're being thrown into a new swimming pool, so to speak, but you're still going to watch. You're still going to throw in that life raft if they need it. It's not good luck. You're on your own. All right. Just like checking in on grades, have them own it a little bit, but still poke at it and peek at it. Okay.
And it kind of ties into the next one. Help them problem solve. They're going to run into some problems. Okay. But instead of directing, here's what I think you should do. Let them come up with the solutions. Are you guys hearing a theme here, by the way? We're saying it over and over again. Let them come up with those solutions and help them to facilitate. So, for example, if they're like, oh my goodness, Mrs. Grubka is when they get in the car. Okay. So how can we together make it so when you walk into the classroom tomorrow, you're in a better state of mind? What is our problem and how do you suggest we work it out? So when you walk into the classroom with Miss Grubka, you're feeling good and you're going to be able to handle whatever she throws at you. Right? And the car, by the way, is a really popular time for them just to whoo. Okay? But help them problem solve, but also let them know that it might not work out the way you want it to right away. And there might be a couple of steps in the process, but let's work on it together. And that's where we mean let them go, but also let them also know that you're there for them and helping them in the process.
With the car, please don't bombard your children with questions in that car, though. That's the last thing they want. Just let them deflate to you. Find a different time to do that, all right? Just from experience, right? Don't jump in, just receive them, all right? And in terms of, I just lost it.
We do this all the time. Usually I remember, I'll know what he's saying.
Oh, I got it. If you as well need some other advice or ideas, you can reach out to me as well, all right? I'll share my experience, what has worked, what hasn't. Mm-hmm. It's not just your children. Please reach out.
Those resources we talked about that are available to your students that you need to encourage them to utilize, same goes for y'all. Okay? Utilize me, Mr. Wilson, our coaches, our teachers, but just let them try first kind of thing. Another one is giving them responsibility at home. Okay? We're giving them a lot more responsibility, right? And we have rules, right? We're giving you more freedom. You can eat where you'd like during lunch, except up in a tree, okay? In the lake, please stop feeding the turtles Cheetos. There's rules. Those are real life things that we've had to say. No, you can't fish in the pond with your homemade hook. Put your trombone away and stop chasing him. So we give them freedom, but we also give them parameters by giving them responsibility, right? And we ask that you do that at home too. And you're going to find that all of a sudden they might not be super excited about it. But here's the beautiful thing. If you're and many of you are probably already doing this. You're asking them to do chores. You're giving them some responsibility, okay? And they may give you a ridiculously hard time. Keep at it. Keep at it. One of the most beautiful things I heard not long ago about one of my children, and they're difficult. I love them to death, but they're just, I feel like before I say anything, no. Okay. They went and spent a week with someone else. That person every day texted me about how helpful they were and how they knew how to do laundry and they knew how to do all of these amazing things. And I was like, really? Interesting. She got back home and it was not very helpful. But my point being is give them that responsibility, okay? And keep on them for it. And it's going to be a grind. And we're doing the same thing here. Okay, we're giving them responsibility, but we're holding them accountable. And sometimes it's a grind because you have to tell them to put away their trombone and stop chasing people. Okay, but at the same time, there's going to be that reward. You just might not see it because you're the parents. So it might be you get an email from Mr. Wilson and being like, oh my gosh, let me tell you what your kid did today. You'd be like, mine? Awesome. But you've got to let them learn and you've got to let them get to that point where they're kind of taking that responsibility, not just in your household, but moving on forward in life and even into high school.
And that little task that you have them doing, whatever, it could turn into a lifelong thing. I had to water the plants in my house when I was little. First couple of years, I was like in tears yelling at my mom. No. I'm a huge gardener now, like huge. I love it. It's my meditation, one of them anyway. And so who knows what it could turn into. Every little thing may help.
So that's kind of that executive functioning skills. The next kind of area that we want to talk about, the junior high social scene. Okay, warning. You guys are going to live junior high all over again, and when I said that earlier, this is really what I was talking about. And it's for us too. All right, here's the deal, is that there's a lot in junior high. And I'll give you a little, when we were doing Junior High 101, my session was all about, HT 101 and what things mean and what, we did a tour of the school. We learned how to open lockers and walked around class schedules. And we also, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, I had them ask a lot of questions. They wrote it down on a piece of paper or on a note card. So it was kind of anonymous, and they were able to ask questions. And they had a lot of questions about fitting in and questions about, where's the dean's office? So I don't ever have to go there. But one of the things that I talk to them about regularly in that session, given the opportunity, is that junior high can be a little challenging. Your best friend since 3rd grade might not be your best friend anymore. Not because you've had some massive falling out, but all of a sudden you don't have any classes together and they're kind of hanging with some group and you're hanging with another group, and that's okay and that's normal. And that little friend group might change in 8th grade. And then again in 10th grade, and then again in 11th grade. It's part of the growing up process. It's part of the developmental process. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't mean that it's easy. And let's be honest, unfortunately, junior high kids can be a little bit ruthless. Because here's what's important to a junior high, and we're making generalizations, and I'm very aware of that. But what they want more than anything is to feel accepted and feel like they belong. I mean, we do too. But in junior high, it's particularly important because there's so many things that are changing, right? And all of a sudden, they don't necessarily recognize themselves. Like they scare themselves when they speak because their voice has dropped, right? There's so many things developmentally happening. They're confused and they feel different and they just want to feel normal again. They want to feel like everything is the way that it's supposed to be. And sometimes, and this is what I told him with that discipline piece, I was like, most of the time our discipline issues in junior high are related to that idea right there. Okay, they'll try to be the class clown, right? Because everybody loves the class clown, right? Well, they're going to get kicked out of class because they were disrespectful to the teacher. They were disruptive in class. Okay, I also told him, by the way, you can't put I was popular in junior high on your resume when you start getting jobs. So in the big picture of life, it's not that important, even though right now it feels really important, right, to fit in and have everybody like me and all of that. So a lot of the things that we're kind of, that's the junior high social realities piece of it. But it's sometimes hard for the parents because if your kid has had the same best friend since 3rd grade, guess what? You might be best friends with their mom and dad too. And when they shift, it can make it a bit challenging. And so we wanted to kind of just own that right now, okay, and talk about that right now because it's not necessarily going to be easy. And by the way, y'all might just breeze through junior high, have no problems and no. But these are common things and themes that we see, at least in the social scene. But it's also the reality of junior high.
And if and when they come home with whatever excited experience that they've gone through, positive, negative, I want to focus on. I want you to try to think of these 2 words, react versus respond. Our natural tendency as parents is to do what? React, protect, save. Of course, that's what we want to do. Nothing is more important. The challenge is stepping back, breathing, getting some logic in there, a little bit of time, and responding. Because the reaction is going to be no different than that energy that they just gave you. And then you're in it, and you're no different than them at that point, all right? It's really, really hard. It will be hard every single time, but think about those 2 words, all right?
And the other thing are the second and the third bullet points, is that they're going to still look to you, and they're still going to lean on you, even though they're going to pretend like they don't need you, and they don't want to lean on you. Okay? And so being there for them when these things get hard, when they're trying to be included, and sometimes you're going to find your own child, and I've had this experience, they were the mean girl or the mean guy in their quest to kind of get to that point, because that's normal. And I don't want to say it's right, but that's kind of a normal reaction. I've got to do what it takes. But as parents and as educators, what we try to advocate to them, and this is why we had the conversation at Junior High 101, is how do you want to be remembered, right? Do you want your kid in 20 years for everybody to remember them as that really nice person that smiled at me every time? Okay? Or the one that didn't. And that's where we all come in. We can model that good behavior. They watch and they listen, even when you think they're not. When their headphones are on, they're not always on, by the way. But my point being is model good behavior. Model the behavior that you want to see in your kids. So if you're at a basketball game, right, and you're walking in with a parent that you know, because your kids have gone to the same school, but you see another parent that's new to the basketball team sitting up in the bleachers, and you've never talked to them before, walk up and sit down. Bring your friend with you, walk up, sit down, strike up a conversation. Because your kids are playing on the same basketball team, right? Or the same soccer team, or they're in the same math class. Your kids will notice that. So they may do the same. Might take them a little longer, but if they see you patterning that behavior, okay, then that becomes natural to them. Okay, when you get wrapped in to the drama, which, by the way, it can be difficult not to get wrapped into the drama. She said what? To who? No. I mean, because that's good stuff, y'all. That can be really good stuff, but nope. Like Mr. Wilson said, do not take that step back and say, okay, let's look at this in the big picture. Okay, how can we, model that behavior and model that kindness and inclusion? Okay, that kid that's sitting there by themselves at the lunch table may want to, by the way, and that's totally fine. There's some days where I know I just want to sit in my office and be like, nobody's here, right? People need that space, but also, if you've taught your kids and you've shown your kids, you know what? I'm going to go sit with them. Come on, guys, let's go sit at this new table. We've seen friendships start that way. Okay, some of my kid's best friends are people that he met at Carline because I forced him to because they were new. Right? I mean, it happens. But being that support system for them when they're struggling and also providing perspective, they may not sound or they may not act like they're listening, but they are. Okay, and it's that repetition, kind of same thing with those executive functioning skills. Keep modeling, keep showing them the way, and you're going to find out again, someone's going to be like, your kid is amazing.
And it's exhausting, but don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever stop. Just keep going, all right? Keep going. If you need a break, call me. We can chat, we can cry, we can have tea, whatever you need. But keep pushing forward, all right?
And by the way, we also encourage your children this is part of that self-advocacy. It can be really hard for a student. Okay, I'm not a rat. Has anyone heard that in their house? Like, I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to be the tattletale. Right? But sometimes the actions of others could actually be very detrimental. And if you don't say anything, if you're that bystander, it can be problematic. At orientation, we'll talk about some of the ways we communicate and all of that. But encourage them. If they're struggling with something, come talk to Mr. Wilson. Come talk to me. Talk to Mrs. Ramos, who's our other school counselor. Talk it through. Encourage that. If you feel like I've hit the limit with this social stuff, encourage them to reach out to their resources here at Holy Trinity. Okay? The people that are working here are ridiculously good at what they do and can help you as well as your child get through and navigate some of those challenging parts. That was the hard one. All right, the next one is communication is key. And this kind of goes a little bit back to what Mr. Wilson was saying earlier about, when they get in the car. Let them talk to you. And I'm, by the way, bad at this. This is not easy. All right, how was your day? What did you do? Who'd you sit with at lunch? And anybody else? Yep, Because you just want to know. You have not been around them since you dropped them off at 7:30, 7:45. They did all these amazing, really cool things at school. You just know it. And they did. I don't want to talk to you about it. My child went from being, and this happens regularly, they went from being the chatty kid to now he only communicates in, I'm like, what is that? Normal, by the way, right? But if I pick, ask, I get nothing. Whereas if you're like, hello,
And there are times where if you don't ask, they're going to be like, why didn't you ask? Mom, you don't love me? But Dad, what? So just again, ride that, breathe through that. That will happen.
And just keep them talking. Find opportunities to be with them on a regular basis. Family meals, which are really challenging, believe me. And even if it's sitting around, eating the food on your lap, on a plate, on your lap, then by all means. Like, that's sometimes the most random. I was actually telling Mr. Wilson earlier that the one that I was telling you grunts, like sometimes on the way home from soccer practice, all of a sudden he just starts talking, and I'm like, is this happening? Right? Bedtime ends up being a really popular time where they're just kind of tired and they're just ready. So kind of let them know that you're here for them and you are ready and wanting to, well, you're definitely wanting to talk, but that you're going to give them a little bit of space, but keep trying, keep continuing, letting them know that you're there. Because the more they talk to you, the better that relationship with trust is going to build. And so when they get to the hard times, guess who they're going to go to for support? Because you've built that trust with them, okay, which is that building trust with your student. Okay, let them know that, yes, you can come talk to me about anything. I mean, there might be limits. If I feel as though someone's, and this is what I tell my children, come talk to me anytime about anything. Ask me any question you want. Tell me anything. But please understand, if I feel as though someone's going to be in danger, I'm totally going to say something. But I'm going to support you in doing so. And here's the ways. Okay, building that trust, which can feel hard when you're a junior high parent because you're here, oh yeah, we're killing it today. And the next day, what happened? And then back up to yay. But just like we've been saying for a lot of this, stick with it. But that building trust, letting them know that you're there, that you're not going to do everything for them, but you're going to support them in them taking care of their grades and them talking to the teachers and them sorting out their social issues. But you can come talk to me. I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. Let's figure this out. Developing those problem-solving skills.
And they may pretend that, I don't want that, Mom and Dad. I don't want that. They want that. They, deep down, they want to know that you're there if they need to come to you, all right? No matter what they say outwardly to you, all right? They want you there.
And the next two are kind of related to that, because when you're keeping the communication open and you're developing the trust, have the hard topics of conversation. As they get older, right? I mean, they're just sweet little kids, and all of a sudden, they're not. And I'll tell you right now, if they have access to social media, which is a family choice, by the way, they're going to know more than you think they know. Okay, we as parents and also as Holy Trinity educators, we're setting standards, and we set them high for behavior and how you carry yourself. Okay? And we have values in our home and belief systems in our home. And those are what we want for our kids, right? To have those value systems and belief systems and moral compasses and all of that. But please understand that they know a lot more than maybe you think they do. And I mean that as like an all-encompassing kind of comment. But be willing to have the hard conversations. And if they trust you, they're going to ask the hard questions. And be ready for that.
And remember, they're on a campus now that is 7th through 12th grade. So even though they're not in classes with, sophomores, juniors, seniors, they're on campus. They're walking by people. They're hearing things. Your children are sponges. They hear everything.
And by the way, it's okay to say, you know what? It's a great question. And that's a hard question. And that's a hard topic. Can you give me a few minutes to process that? Okay? And I'm going to get back to you. This is big. Let me process it. Because that's what they do, right? And there's, again, that modeling, right? It's okay to show that you're like, I don't know what to do right now. Okay? And that's okay. Show that vulnerability. Build that trust. But also be willing to have the hard conversations. Okay? And let them be honest. And it might be like, okay, all right. We're going to call Mr. Wilson in the morning, and we're going to, but be okay with not having all the answers, but be willing to have the hard conversations. Because again, from our experience, they know more than we think they know. And some of that's because of social media. We saved this one for last because it's a lovely little gem. Here's the thing. Social media is both amazing and awful all at the same time. And I know as adults, it's the same thing, right? You get on Instagram. Okay? And you see these people with the most amazing lives. I mean, it's incredible. The things they're doing and the love they have for their family and their spouses. They never argue. They look good all the time. I can't do that. My house is a wreck. I don't know where anything is because I'm a stacks person. Okay? That as an adult is hard, right? I know that I look and I'm like, well, I don't think I measure up. Maybe I got to do a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that because we're humans, right? You take that to a 12, 13, 14-year-old who's trying to figure all this out, it's amplified. And y'all, some of these kids will spend 30 minutes trying to get the just perfect pose. And in our mind, we're like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. But that's kind of their frame of reference sometimes because they want to have that perfect idea and that image. So if we're struggling with it, I mean, imagine your children who are trying to figure things out and trying to fit in, struggling with it. And here's the deal. We are not here to tell you, don't let them have social media. Because on the flip side of that, that's the way they communicate, right? You might be left out. Your child might be left out of the soccer group chat on Snapchat, and they will miss things. Right, this is what they're going to say, by the way, right? And there's some validity to that. There's ways to work it through and all, but social media can be good because it's the way they communicate, but it can also be a challenge that you get to navigate and that we actually get to navigate as well.
This may be the hardest piece, actually, for everyone here tonight, is that right there. Because I know I didn't have it when I was their age, and I don't think a lot of you had it when you were their age. And no matter how many firewalls, if that's even a thing anymore, how you monitor it, they're getting through, they're getting to what they want to see. You have to assume that. Remember that. You have to assume that they're getting beyond whatever you're putting up. Those angels that you have are getting beyond that, all right? Assume that.
But also understand that sometimes they don't know the impact of what they're doing. They're not mature enough, right? I think we even wrote it in here, is that there is, the time right now in their development, they haven't had this much development since infancy. Lots and lots of things happening. So they think something's funny. They genuinely think they're not bad people, right? They put something and they post it because it's hilarious. And oh my gosh, I want Blake to see it. It's so funny. And then they show it to somebody else and they show it to somebody else. And then there's a board on Pinterest about a kid. It's hilarious. But they're not fully developed and mature enough to understand that if that one kid saw that, they would probably be devastated, right? But their brains haven't thought that far. So we're telling you this not to scare the snot out of you. And if we did, we're sorry. But we want you to be aware of where their lives are and where they are. And to be honest, misuse of social media is one of the most common ways that junior high kids get into trouble. And a lot of the time, they had no idea. And not in a naive way, not a like, I didn't know. Wink, wink. Talk to them about it. Okay, and again, that goes back to that building trust and communication. Talk to them and say, okay, hey, let's take a look at your social media. Right? And some of y'all might monitor it already. Right? But my kids are the best kids on the face of the planet. But they're not. I'm sure your kids are too. But they may not be all the time. And it's not because they're being mean or mean-spirited. It's because they just haven't fully developed the ability to show empathy and understand empathy. And that's where we can model, and that's where we can talk, and we're here, again, to support you. So have these conversations. Talk to them about what's okay and what's not okay, but also try to, and this is what we try to do, we try to dictate to them, this is the way it should be, this is the way it shouldn't be. Letting them come around to understanding that those posts that you think are funny, what if they saw that? That kind of understanding and that developmental help them along in that maturity process.
When they're giggling and looking at their phone, ask them to see what they're giggling about.
What's so funny?
That'll be a good little door in there because they're looking at something that, okay, that's fun. Let's mom and dad see that.
Yeah. And it could be an opportunity for a great conversation. Or it could actually be something really funny. I get sucked into TikToks my kids show me. They're sometimes funny. So we wanted to kind of transition here. We just laid a lot on you. Happy Friday. But we're hoping that by putting this all out there, you know that we're going to be a resource for y'all. Okay, and then also that you can say, okay, let me process this, and let's have these conversations and know what we might be getting into, and y'all might not have to deal with any of this at all, ever. Okay, some of this might be more of a whatever, but what we also wanted to show you is that what's funny is probably what you're thinking about going into junior high isn't necessarily what your kids are thinking about going into junior high. Which is sweet. You're like, okay, so what classes are they taking in order to get into Harvard by the time they're, no, right? They're like, can I wear dangly earrings? So remember how I told you in Junior High 101, we gave them, I gave them little note cards and just they could ask any question. I got a lot of questions about dangly earrings. I was like, oh, okay. But I think it's because back in elementary school, no dangly earrings. They can wear dangly earrings. So we wanted to share some of these with y'all, A, because some of them are kind of sweet, and B, we also wanted to share some of the answers with you. And then if you have any questions, we can throw those in as well. But yes, they can wear dangly earrings, and no, they do not have to have their shirt tucked in. Ooh, sorry, but yay. There's a lot of reasons for that. If you actually want to know why, we can have that chat. But no, they don't have to have their shirts tucked in. Nor, this is the big questions they had. Yes, they can wear flip-flops and Crocs. But no, they can't wear them at PE, even in sport mode. Did y'all know about sport mode with the Crocs? I found this out at Junior High 101. So Crocs, if the strap's on, it's sport mode. And they function as tennis shoes.
But that's not PE uniform sport mode.
And leisure mode is when the strap's up here. New things all the time. But they can't wear them for PE. They have to have tennis shoes at all times. We suggest they put it in their PE locker. But we get a lot of those questions. So here are a couple of other ones.
So dress code, schedule, phones, and
lunch.
That's basically all they want to know about, all right?
And what happens when they're late to class?
Can I color my hair? Does it have to be within the normal colors? Normal colors. Not sure what that is.
The answer to that is yes, you can dye your hair. However, it has to be a natural color. Red, like pink, purple, blonde highlights, totally fine. If your student's worried about it, the best thing to do is say, hey, find a great picture. Let's show it to Mrs. Uzier. And I'll tell you, no. Same thing with out of uniform outfits. If you're like, oh, cute, how about we take a picture and let's show Miss Uzier before the first out of uniform day. Right? That's always, you can always use us as a resource. But yes, they can dye their hair, but it has to be natural color.
Are we allowed to wear earrings, nail polish, and flip-flops? You hit that one, I think. Yes. Nail polish. There's lots more, guys. How long is each period? Do we get breaks?
47 minutes. And yes, there are 2 breaks during the day. Your kids hopefully came home with their schedules if they were at Junior High 101, and you can kind of see on the back. I think it's located in the Parent Resources section, but when they get their schedules on Monday, we're going to have the schedule operating there again. But yes, and they had a really hard time with 47 minutes. They were like, well, why 47 and not like 46? And not 48? And how come we have an 8-minute break instead of a 10-minute break? And it's just the way we have to start at a certain time and end at a certain time. They're sweet questions, y'all. So we did all this really heavy stuff and delivered it to you, but we also want to remind you, your kids are still kids, and they're growing up, and they're still a lot of fun, and they're curious.
Do we need a hall pass when we go to the bathroom?
No.
We can just go to the bathroom?
Well, you need to ask your teacher, and different teachers will have different rules. But for the most part, if you've got to go, you can go. But if you're there for 30 minutes, someone's going to come looking for you. But we've decided at Holy Trinity that hall passes are legit kind of gross. Here, share this lanyard and take it to the bathroom multiple times a day and bring it back and let the next person use it. So we decided to pass on the actual use of hall passes. But there are always people in the hallways, and if I see a kid more than once or twice during the day, I'm like, are you okay? We might need to have a conversation with your parents about the number of times you're going to the bathroom every day.
Do we have homeroom?
No, we don't. We don't have homeroom, and we can deliver all of the information we need to deliver to your students, whether it's at announcements during chapel, or, first period teachers, please tell da-da-da-da-da-da. And by the way, yes, they have to carry their backpacks. That was one I was surprised about. They asked, well, what do we do with our backpacks? You carry them around to every class period. But I think sometimes in elementary school, they have their locker, and then they hang their backpack outside their homeroom. right? That's very elementary. Nope, you're going to carry that thing around, and we suggest that you go to your locker so you're not walking around like this.
If we don't have homeroom, then what do we do in the mornings before school?
That's a great question. This is fun, sorry. Basically, our campus opens at 7:30 every morning. Okay, our library is open at 7:30, and Carline, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at orientation day, the nuts and bolts of it, but Carline, you drop them out here, not out there, but out here at the Scott Center, Carline. They usually hang out outside the library or inside of the library in their kind of junior high area. Okay, and they sometimes do homework, they hang out, they can go in the library and charge their phones or their computers before school, and then all of those spaces are still available to them after school as well.
Phones.
Oh. Anybody know?
Can we have them out at lunch?
Can they have them? Anyone? Take a guess? Oh, we got a yes and we got a no. Okay, this one we actually have conversations about regularly. Okay, because their phones are, as much as we don't necessarily always like it, it's kind of part of them, right? And we don't want it to be too much. So here's the deal. We have what we call cell phone pockets in every single classroom. To be honest, they're shoe racks. You know those little shoe racks, the plastic shoe racks? All right, and we call them cell phone pockets. And so every class that they walk into, they put their cell phone in there. And it used to be a long time ago that they'd have to put their cell phone in their first period class, and then they'd pick it up at the end of the day. They'd have to go back to their first period class and pick it up. But one of the things that we're trying to teach them is responsibility. And you can't teach them responsibility and how to properly use the phone in the right environment if they don't have access. So here's what we do. Every class period, they put it in that cell phone pocket and they can't touch it. Okay, they can't touch it. They can't take it to the bathroom with them. They can't do any of those things. They're not going to really have a lot of time in between classes to play on their phones. I'm sorry, Miss Gibbons, I was late to class because I was doing a TikTok is not going to fly. Okay, but they are allowed to have them during break and during lunch. But what we tell them is this is a privilege. If it is abused, if we have too many issues, then we're going to go and you're going to lose that privilege. Okay, so it's a responsibility with consequences if needed.
Is the 7th grade going on any field trips?
I'm so glad you asked. This year, we've been kind of constrained a little bit with field trips because of COVID. Last year, our 7th graders went with the English class to the Orlando Science Center, and we're hoping to do that again this year and have a few more field trips. But we're also, and again, I'll give more details on Monday, we're going to take the entire junior high on a junior high trip in April. We're going to go to the Circle F Ranch. We're going to have 8th graders and 7th graders split up, but it's going to be amazing. Horseback riding. I think they're going to learn how to make camp meals. They're going to learn there's going to be a whole bunch of really amazing things that we're going to do over those 3 days. So in April, again, I'll give you more details as we go along. But yes, they do field trips.
If I take the bus, where do I go?
Ooh, good question. Any of y'all Tiger Transit people? You're going to be at the lower school dropping off? All right, the bus is going to drop off right out there at that pedestrian gate, okay? In the afternoons, they're going to pick up out there. The drop-off is going to be at the Tiger Athletic Complex. So a lot of times you drop off your lower school kids, they come up, and then they circle back around. They drop off the older kids, circle back around. So it's basically they're going to be dropped off and picked up at campus over here, but if you're dropping off your lower school kid, it's down at the Tiger Athletic Complex.
When should we get here in the morning?
I would not get here any earlier than 7:30. However, don't get here any later than 7:45, 7:50 is my suggestion. Because if you're coming in, and I do Carline every morning, there's people coming in on 2 wheels. It's amazing. I'm like, you've got 30 seconds to get to class.
And the kids are sprinting with that 30-pound backpack.
But that's not a good way to start the day, right? Nobody likes to start the day where you're like, oh. So we suggest at least no earlier, don't drop them off any later than 7:45, 7:50. Can we eat lunch in the gazebo?
Yes, we can. Again, anywhere on campus, within reason, not in the lake, in the tree.
Yeah. Real thing. All right, we already answered the break and snack period. Do we have to eat in the same place every day? A lot of the lunch questions were basically, we're not in elementary school anymore, friend.
Here's a good one. Do we have to use our lockers?
No, but we highly recommend it. Actually, 7th grade parents, you're kind of lucky because most of your kids are not going to have a textbook. You might have one or two because they're online textbooks. So a lot of kids will, get into the routine of, hey, you know what, I've got everything online, so I just need to carry my backpack. It's not a requirement. We also did have a lot. We want to save a few minutes or at least a couple minutes for y'all to ask some of those questions that might be blaring in your brains. But we did want to kind of end on a more positive note and just kind of let you know where their brains are. They also had a lot of questions about discipline. They wanted to know where the dean's office was when I showed them, and I told them, this door right here, this is the first and the last time you will ever see it. That's what we're going for, at least. Okay, but they do have some concerns about that, and what we told them was, be respectful. You have a really good way of saying it to them. You want to share that, though?
They have 2 jobs, 2 things to worry about in school. And this is forever, really. Do your work and be respectful. Kindness, love, all those things with respect, too. But that's it. That's all I have to think about. It's hard. I get it. The work's hard a lot. Being respectful sometimes is a real challenge, especially when things are happening to you that you don't like. But that's it. That's all I have to worry about, those 2 things.
And then they won't see that door. So do any of y'all have any questions? We've thrown a lot at you. Again, a lot of it was serious. We tried to, give you the idea of also where your kids are coming into 7th or 8th grade. Do y'all have any questions? And by the way, we've got about 10-ish minutes to be able to ask and answer some questions before you got to go pick up your kids. But we'll also be here for a few minutes as well if you don't feel comfortable just belting it out. Totally normal, totally understandable. Yes, ma'am. So the question is, what about after school? So we do have a car line that starts at 2:55. We're usually done about 3:10, 3:15. However, if they are going to be staying on campus past that time, we do ask that junior high students be in one of 2 places. One is on this side of campus. Okay, the library is open till 4. Okay, the picnic tables outside the library are open beyond that. And by the way, if it's storming and raining, we keep the library open longer. Okay, but the library's open till 4. They can stay there. But they have to kind of stay on this campus. They can't go to Wawa. They can't, leave. They can't do anything like that. They have to stay here. But the other place they can be at is the Tiger Athletic Complex. A lot of them will have athletics, and sports. But we also have something called the Huddle, which is going to be it's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And they can go out there. They can study with friends. They can play ping pong. They can buy snacks. And that closes at about 4 o'clock. So anybody that's down there past 4 will be sent back to this side of campus. And we just, just communicate with your child because they'll probably be back on this side over near the library when you get here.
And if they walk down there, can you have them stay on the sidewalk, please?
Yes, down at the athletic complex.
So along those lines, if we pick up, do we walk into the school?
Pick up. Well, no. Usually, the easiest way to do it, and then what's the process for picking up? Most of your students will have a cell phone. Okay, and if they don't, have a prearranged place and time to meet you. So you can say, hey, listen, I'm going to be picking you up in front of the Scott Center at 4:15 every day, or between 4:15 and 4:30. Make sure that you're at the front, And if you're here before 4, the office is open, and we can be like, Jeremiah, your dad's at the front of the school.
They love that.
But after that, it's just a matter of communicating. And if you can't find them, feel free to call me or, I'm usually here quite late, but you can, give me a call, my office phone, and it'll ring to my regular phone. But yeah, we can help out, but usually a prearranged time, hey, by the way, today I'm picking you up 4:30 in front of the Scott Center, be there. And expect it 4:45, I'm just saying. Yes?
Sure. So I know they're required to have a planner. To what extent are they forced to use the planner?
It's up to their organizational structure that you help them develop.
There may be 1 or 2 teachers that want to see them writing it down, but it isn't always in that specific planner. There's like, okay, I am expecting you to write down your assignment here. You know what I mean? Trying to help teach those, kind of options. But in terms of the specific planner that we gave them, we said you should use it. And Mrs. Roach, by the way, might tell you something different. She's like, use the planner all the time. But it's not, we're not checking planners and, making sure a parent signed them or anything like that. Because, again, we're trying to teach them to kind of take ownership of those things. And if we tell you this is the only way, You might be on your phone. It works better organizing on your phone as opposed to a written planner. Setting alarm timers is also helpful. Okay. Uniform questions. Do you have to wear a belt? No. Because we're no longer requiring the shirts to be tucked in, we're not requiring a belt. However, when they are at Eucharist, they're required to tuck their shirts in and have a belt. So we do suggest having a belt on hand for those days. And if I'm suggesting, just go ahead and put a belt in your gym locker. Because if you're going to remember on Eucharist Day, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to remember, but put that belt in the locker, and then if it's that day, it's right there, easy peasy.
I would sign on having them wear a belt, because if the shirt's out, the pants, we're not going to have pants hanging down low, and then they're going to get in trouble for it. So
correct. Uniforms have to be purchased from Lands End or thank you. I was like, I can't remember. Sir Walter up in Merritt Island. There are a small handful of Target brands and colors that are available, but those keep changing. So if there's a question about, whether something would be appropriate, just send it to me and I can give you the okay. Because last year, in our handbook, we say, in Target, if it's this color, but we have found that those colors have been discontinued and or called something slightly different. But most of the time, Lands End and Sir Walter. If they have PE first period, they are absolutely allowed to wear their PE uniform because the first place they're going to report is to PE. They won't be going anyplace else and then PE. No. Orientation on Monday, just let them chill. Let them wear what they'd like to wear. But they do have to wear their uniform on the first day of school.
Appropriately chill, please.
Yes. That's a very important clarification. And you can tell them that it's appropriate or not, by the way. The question was, at the lower school, we got texts. A couple things. First of all, y'all are taking my entire presentation on Monday. But reiteration, no, we have bright arrows that you can sign up for, and on Monday, I'll give you the exact specifications of text of this too, and then we remind you, it's out of uniform day, it's Eucharist day, it's these things. I rely on that. I'm unfortunately the parent that I get to school and I see everybody else, and then I look at my own kid and I'm like, you're wearing the wrong shirt. But he's going to 9th grade. That's his responsibility, not mine, right? That's what I tell myself. We have time for maybe one more question, then y'all got to book it and get to pick up your kids. Yes, ma'am.
So if there are any days that they don't bring their cell phone in, do we need to email you?
Please do. Email me directly, because teachers will ask and go, you had a phone yesterday, and then they're going to email me, so we can be preemptive on that one.
They do not need a cell phone. We kind of operate in our conversations with the assumption, because many of them do, but no, they don't, to be able to function on campus, they don't need it. And if you're like, I don't want them to have it at school, that is totally your prerogative, but we do ask that you email, either all the teachers or Mr. Wilson or myself and just say, hey, by the way, so-and-so is not going to have a phone ever. And that way, if we see all of a sudden, Samantha has a phone in the phone pocket, what? We can have those conversations. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up again. I just don't want you all to be late. But if you have questions, please feel free to ask or send us an email. You've got our contact information. And thank you. I know it's not easy coming out on a Friday, so we really, really appreciate y'all coming out. And by all means, use us as resources.
Have a good weekend, everybody.